The art of the deal.
Our primary focus will be trade and trade with Canada.
Canada and the U.S. aim to reach a trade deal day one at the G7 summit.
And if we start charging for it, we're going to unfortunately drive down uptake.
Calls for the province to reverse its plan to charge most Albertans for the COVID shot. And not so gnarly move.
That's the most utilized space in the park, right?
Why a portion of an inner city skate park is temporarily closed.
CTV Calgary, local breaking news with Camilla Di Giuseppe.
Day one of the G7 summit is in the history books with a traditional family photo of the leaders with the beautiful Kananaskis backdrop. In another development tonight, only 24 hours after touching down, President Donald Trump cut short his visit to Kananaskis. And arriving in Calgary tonight, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who was invited as a guest by Mark Carney. Good evening. As the leaders of some of the most powerful and wealthiest nations in the world descended on Kananaskis for the G7 summit, there is renewed hope for a trade deal between Canada and the U.S., including a possible timeline. Prime Minister Mark Carney and U.S. President Donald Trump met privately this morning. Trump said a trade agreement with Canada is achievable, and now he and Carney have agreed to a 30-day timeline for trade negotiations. Canada's ambassador to the U.S. says she's optimistic a deal will happen.
Right now, what we have to do is find a way to get ourselves out from under the tariffs that the U.S. has put on to date, and frankly, from their part, to get out from the countermeasures that we have put on the United States. So that's our goal. Our goal is to get back to a predictable free trading environment as soon as possible. In order to, move forward and find whatever the equilibrium is between our two countries.
Meantime, Trump did announce a trade deal today with Britain's Keir Starmer, and the U.S. president also said Russia should have stayed part of the G8, blaming Barack Obama and Justin Trudeau for kicking out Vladimir Putin, even though Stephen Harper was prime minister at the time. De-escalating the crisis between Israel and Iran is on the G7 agenda, but earlier tonight in a post on X, the White House press secretary said that the president would be departing because of what's going on in the Middle East. When asked about his early exit, Trump told reporters he had to get back.
President, any statement on why you're leaving the G7 early for Washington?
Well, I have to be back. Very important. I want to just thank our great host. He did a fantastic job. Thank you. In Canada. But you probably see what I see, and I have to be back as soon as I can.
Taking to social media, Donald Trump is urging people to evacuate Tehran. He goes on to say that Iran should have signed the deal he told them to, and that it cannot have a nuclear weapon. Well, one of Calgary's demonstration zones was quieter today. A group speaking out against the Indian Prime Minister's visit to the G7 was loud, but just blocks away, you might not have even known the summit was happening. Tim Brooke has more.
Just 80 kilometers east of one of the biggest political events in the world, Calgary was relatively quiet. Yes, there were some road closures and more police downtown and in front of federal buildings, but the core wasn't as unruly as expected. Many companies told staff to work remotely.
It's pretty quiet, business as usual.
There's no interference for me.
I didn't notice anything different.
The one group that did protest tried its best to make up for its size with its volume. Advocacy group 6 for Justice supports Khalistan, a proposed independent sixth state in India. They're against the G7 invite given to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Under his government, there's a serious threat and immediate threat to the sixth.
Relations between the two countries have been rocky since Mounties and the former Prime Minister accused Indian agents of killing a prominent Khalistani separatist. Those here wonder why Modi was welcomed in.
We understand that international trade is important, but equally important are human rights and right to self-determination.
It was all a lot tamer than Sunday when hundreds representing multiple groups made their voices heard in front of City Hall and down the streets. Police say most protesters were peaceful, but some did not comply with traffic safety laws and interrupted emergency services. The G7 and its protests wrap Tuesday. Tim Brooke, CTV News, Calgary.
Any protests happening in the G7 protest zones will be broadcast live for the leaders in K-Country. And more protest groups and concerned residents gathered in Banff today, with some traveling a good distance to send a message to G7 leaders. Terry Fikowski has more.
Overhead, the sound of security, but below, discussions of dissent. A few dozen people gathering in Banff on Monday to send their message to G7 leaders.
And having Trump be allowed into Canada kind of bothers me.
Different groups took turns at the podium advocating on a range of issues, from human rights violations in China to the Hamas-Israel conflict and the war in Ukraine.
Well, we are here to support our leader who is coming to Canada.
Legacy for everyone.
A small convoy of cyclists rolled into the rally from Canmore, calling for the protection of parks.
We rode the Legacy Trail. It's kind of symbolically to ask the leaders, what is your legacy?
Others came from Calgary, demanding action on climate change.
I do think that there is an irony to it with the wildfire smokes and with the coal mining in the eastern slopes that they are gathering here.
But this man, a Buddhist monk, traveled from Japan. He walked 10 days from Calgary to Canmore in hopes leaders will ban nuclear weapons and avoid his country's dark history.
I am praying for peace, for abolishing nuclear weapons.
Japanese dignitaries in Banff say they share in those concerns and are a priority for the Prime Minister meeting with other leaders.
China's current external stance, their military activities and other activities pose a serious concern for Japan, our regional partners and the international community.
But aside from a few signs and security, many are actually unaware G7 leaders are meeting just 80 kilometers away.
You know, the G7 summit is happening here as well?
No.
Banff's mayor says it's business as usual, with the town accustomed to accommodating high volumes of visitors.
This is our busy time of year, so we are all staffed up and ready to welcome the world.
The Fenlands Banff Recreation Center has been set up as a designated protest site in the town, and any rallies held here, both big or small, will be streamed to G7 leaders in Kananaskis. In Banff, Terry Fikowski, CTV News.
Gina is in with our first look at the weather. Hopefully we get to, get the barbecues going this week a few times at least.
Oh, yeah. I think you'll have a good amount of opportunity to get the barbecue going, maybe get in a couple of games of golf as well. Really, this tail end of spring, already feeling like summer out there. And then it all changes by the time summer actually comes around. But when we look ahead to tonight, we'll drop down to 12 degrees, partly cloudy conditions out there. And then a very similar setup for tomorrow afternoon, where we'll have more of those clouds start to move in. There could be a slight chance of maybe some thunderstorms, so that's why I'm putting that risk up there. But otherwise, really nice conditions that you'll see in your 5-day forecast coming up.
Thank you very much, Gina. Alberta healthcare workers say they were blindsided by a surprise move from the province, a decision to start charging most people an estimated $110 for COVID-19 vaccines this fall. The policy, announced late Friday, is meant to cut waste and contain costs, but critics say it could do the opposite, making vaccines harder to get and more people sick. Mark Villani reports.
David Silsky didn't know it when he first rolled up to his pharmacy on Monday. But the 81-year-old was shocked to learn this would be his last free COVID-19 shot.
I can't afford it. I'm trying to keep up with it, get all the shots, right? And now I got to pay, and I'm not paying nothing.
Most Albertans, including healthcare workers, will now have to pay an estimated $110 out of pocket for a COVID shot starting this fall. Those with pre-existing conditions can still get one free of charge, a decision Premier Danielle Smith defended, saying most of the shots were going unused.
54% of it was wasted, over 1 million doses. That's $135 million. And so that was very influential in saying, is there a better way for us to do it?
If we start charging for it, we're going to unfortunately drive down uptake.
But with the rampant rise of other diseases like measles in Alberta, some worry this could lead to an even more overwhelmed healthcare system.
This year alone, we lost over 300 Albertans to COVID. We had 3,000 hospitalizations. So it shows how severe this illness still is.
What we have with Danielle Smith and the UCP is a government that cares more about appeasing fringe groups. It's dangerous, and it is not driven by evidence.
The Alberta Pharmacists Association also worries about access to the vaccine. Soon, COVID shots will no longer be available at community pharmacies, only through public clinics with limited hours.
The coverage would be far less. There would be less people taking them. And I think, what I understand, they'll probably end up in emergency getting treatment if they get infected.
It might mean that seniors or other people that are high risk are going to have to travel a lot further to receive the vaccine, which would be a barrier.
And create new health concerns.
I do worry about it. It's a pretty serious illness.
Mark Villani, CTV News, Calgary.
The province says it has ordered just under 500,000 of its COVID vaccines for this fall, and some of the estimated $49 million cost would be covered through taxpayers paying for these shots. Turning now to the measles numbers in Alberta, there is one more case confirmed in Calgary, bringing the number in our city to 19. Alberta's total case count now sits at more than 900. There were 53 new cases of the highly infectious and preventable disease confirmed this weekend. Infectious disease experts say 2 doses of the MMR vaccine provides the best protection. The city of Calgary is facing a multi-million-dollar class action lawsuit from Martelou business owners. The plaintiffs argue that extensive construction by the city since 2023 has caused dire financial consequences by restricting public access to the businesses. They want to be compensated $75 million plus special damages to be proven in court. The businesses say the city offered some money in 2022, but it's a fraction of the total loss. Silver Sage Beef and Diner Deluxe are leading this class action lawsuit, representing a group of business owners along 33rd and 34th Avenues between Crowchild Trail and 14th Street Southwest.
Our clients are basically telling us that they are selling their homes, they're getting second mortgages, and they're hanging on by a thread.
In a statement, the city says it's aware of the claim and is reviewing it. Martelou has been undergoing about $30 million worth of construction over 3 years. It's set to wrap up by October 31st. Well, preparations for the Calgary Stampede is underway. That also includes event spaces throughout the city. But one music festival is putting a dent in an inner city skate park. We'll explain next.
You're watching CTV News, Calgary.
The homicide unit is investigating a suspicious death in northeast Calgary. A man in medical distress was found along the 6300 block of Rundlehorn Drive around 4 yesterday afternoon. He was transported to hospital where he later died. An autopsy is scheduled for Wednesday. Police are asking anyone who has information about this incident to contact them. Police continue to investigate the death of a woman in downtown Calgary. She was found in the 1100 block of 12th Avenue Southwest around 6:30 Saturday night. The woman was taken to hospital where she later died. An autopsy is scheduled for tomorrow. Police are asking Calgarians to be vigilant as the number of overnight residential break and enters increases across the city. In the last several weeks, police received more than 30 reports from homeowners who have been victims of residential break and enters. Most have occurred between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. while the victims were asleep. In many instances, it is believed the thieves have entered homes by cutting through the screens of unlocked windows and in some cases through unlocked doors. As their investigation continues, police are asking residents to keep their doors and windows locked at all times. A fire last night in the Northwest has been deemed suspicious. Calgary Fire was called at about 7:15. They arrived to smoke coming from a house on Home Road. The windows and doors were boarded up. The fire was in the basement and a dog was rescued. A popular inner-city skate park has been partially closed to accommodate the Cowboys Music Festival for the Stampede. Local riders say they were never consulted, but the park is undergoing a major revamp, and with it being peak season for skateboard weather, they're holding out hope the festival reverses course. Tyson Fedor with more.
Work is underway to get Cowboys Park ready for its annual Stampede Bash Cowboys Music Festival, but that work has encroached into the skate park, with the intermediate and beginner bowls being closed to the public.
I'm devastated, honestly. Seeing this, I felt like crying. It felt like I was being stabbed in the heart. And the moment we do have summer, peak of the summer, they're just going to cover up the skate park, and now we can't ride.
Carrie Walker noticed the fencing last week, along with scaffolding being built within the bowls. That's to accommodate food trucks and washrooms for the next month's event. Walker says this is the first time the skate park has been shuttered for festivals, with many being held here in the past.
I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen such an overreach to our space. I hope they don't do this next year, as they're disappointing a lot of people.
The former Shaw Millennium Park has been receiving upgrades, about $6 million worth from the city. Councillor Terry Wong surveyed the site on Monday after hearing of public concerns.
We definitely heard a lot of complaints through our office and social media as well. Given the time frame when the agreement was approved a year ago to where we are now, there was a lot of fast tracking, and unfortunately some of the engagement should have been done wasn't quite there.
The closure has irritated many within the skateboard and BMX community, including David Hoare.
To shut this down for practically 2 months of peak season, of the nicest days of the year, is completely outrageous. We don't have washroom access. We don't have access to the water fountains.
He says he felt compelled to try and make a change, with only the advanced bowl remaining open.
That's the most utilized space in the park, right? Like being the intermediate section, you know, it's kind of a balance between where the pros can ride, where the beginners can ride. It's kind of the most inclusive area in the park, where, you know, all the features are pretty accessible to everyone.
The city says the closures were required for Cowboys to operate its music festival. The rest of the skate park reopens July 30th. Tyson Fedor, CTV News, Calgary.
The petition has received around 3,000 signatures since Wednesday. Well, Gina is up next with her Skywatch forecast, and we're in for some great conditions. Things will start to change by the first day of summer. Those details next.
Well, it was a pretty lovely Monday for the last Monday of spring. We saw a lot of sunshine, some nice above seasonal temperatures, but still there's that potential for thunderstorms in the late afternoon, early evening. This is what we saw a little earlier today. Definitely some of that precipitation building along the foothills there, but nothing much materializing over the city. Temperatures today were really nice, like I mentioned. We got up to 24 in Calgary, same if you're joining us in that Edmonton area, and really just across the board here, coast to coast, most of our main markets, they were in the mid to high 20s. Now we're going to see this pattern continue as we get into tomorrow as well, up to 23 degrees for Calgary, and then into the high 20s the more south you go in the province. And this is basically a rinse and repeat pattern for the next 3 days here. So when does it finally break, and when do we start to see a change? It's going to be over the Pacific, our next weather maker here. You've got this swirling low pressure system here closer to the BC coastline, and then more out in the ocean, another low, and they're kind of both working together, and they have the potential of merging into one system. In fact, this model already is seeing it as such, but you'll see it stays out in the ocean for quite a few days here. Again, like I mentioned, it's going to be the next 3 days of pretty consistent weather trends. It's not until we get into Friday that we start to see this Arctic low merge with this Pacific low right over Alberta. That's going to bring a lot of precipitation from the states there, and then cold, dry air from the north. So by the time we get into Friday and Saturday, expect our temperatures to drop and a lot of rain to move in. Good news after a pretty dry stretch here. Tomorrow, though, in Fernie, 26 degrees, mainly sunny, 27 for Golden. Back in Alberta, Edmonton will get up to 24 degrees tomorrow. In central parts like Rocky Mountain, Red Deer, you could see some non-severe thunderstorms, and that could be a possibility for us in Calgary as well. Not going to be as severe as what that icon is suggesting there, though. And the more south we go, you get a lot of that warmth, but not the instability to go along with it. And like I mentioned, next several days here looking pretty consistent, but it's by the time we get into that first day of summer on Friday that we see that wet system move in.
Thank you, Gina. If you have yet to finalize your summer travel plans, stick around. How you can enjoy Canada's national parks and national sites for free or at a discount. Alberta Fish and Wildlife responded to an unusual bear incident in the Fort McMurray area. Officials say a cinnamon-colored black bear was caught snacking on a lawnmower seat. It happened at a remote access work site. Fish and Wildlife say the bear kept coming back, so they captured the Bruin and used a helicopter to relocate it. Officials say this is a reminder that anything with a smell can be an attractant to a hungry bear. Ottawa has announced its new Canada Strong Pass to provide Canadians and visitors with free entry into national parks this summer. The feds say it's all in an effort to unite the country, while businesses in both Waterton Lakes and Banff National Parks are excited to welcome more travelers. It's not without concerns. Carson Marsouk reports.
Coming off the busiest weekend in June on record, Waterton's Bayshore Inn and Suites is preparing for a busy summer season.
We always want all Canadians to visit, enjoy, and see their national parks.
But Canada's national parks are about to get much busier after the federal government announced its Canada Strong Pass Monday.
From June 20th to September 2nd, the pass will offer expanded access to Canada's nature and culture. This includes free admission for everyone to our beautiful national parks, historic sites, and marine conservation areas.
Discounts for students for Via Rail and into museums will also be included. With more than 540,000 visitors through Waterton Lakes in 2024, the second busiest on record, the free entry has sparked some concerns.
There's a fine line between showing off our national parks and over-tourism.
He says 2017 marked the busiest year for Waterton Lakes when admission was free for Canada's 150th birthday.
We just don't want over-tourism, because when you have too many people, it can destroy this beautiful ecosystem, this beautiful place that we have. And we also want everyone that comes to this beautiful park to have an amazing experience.
The mayor of Banff says systems need to be in place to help facilitate free entry. 4.2 million people visited Banff last year.
We hope that this is a way for the federal and provincial governments to come together and look at how we can better serve Canadians coming to our national park. And for us, that means mass transit.
Parks Canada says efforts to raise awareness of trip planning, promoting shorter season and less sensitive areas of the park, and managing crowd sizes are ongoing. Carson Marsouk, CTV News, Lethbridge.
The Canada Strong Pass does not have to be applied for or displayed. You can just show up and enjoy. If you already have a pass, it will be extended for an additional 3 months. All right, that's it for us here at CTV News at 11:30. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.